Well, I think if Adam Smith was holding meetings in this house today to discuss what's going on in the world economy, there would be a pretty large agenda for them to think about. They would obviously, the largest, I think, is the challenges to globalization. Globalization has been the most important development in the world economy over the last 50 years or so. And what we learned during the COVID pandemic was the difficulty of ensuring that supply chains were robust and resilient. People started having to think again about that issue, and that's critical to dealing with an uncertain world, to have supply chains that are robust and resilient. And these have been challenged even further by some of the goings-on in relation to international trade and manufactures. We have to make globalization, which has been critical to our prosperity, we have to make it work better for all of us. Well, Adam Smith was very skeptical about government intervention in business, but he lived in a very different business world to the one we live in today. But I think the idea of government intervening to support a steel industry is something he could not have imagined. And the major problem we have at the moment, which is, to my mind, the loss of trust in business on the part of the public, that is something that government can help to address, and I think should. The most quoted passage from Adam Smith is the one about the invisible hand. And that's been hugely influential, but mostly in an undesirable way, in a way Smith would not have either intended or wished. It is not an invitation to people to be selfish. It is not even a statement that any government intervention in the operation of business or the markets is undesirable. What Smith was trying to say there was that business operates, or the economy operates, without a designer taking charge of the whole. And that's a remarkable thing. It's what Adam Ferguson called the institutions which are the result of human action, but not of human design. That's a profoundly influential idea, the invisible hand, but one that's widely misunderstood. I think the more important part is that we gain from exchange, and the most important part of all is something Smith and others in the Scottish Enlightenment were working towards, which is the idea that evolution is a critical progress for advance, not just, as Darwin went on to argue, in natural species, but in institutions as well. I think the biggest challenge we have at the moment in relation to people and business is the loss of trust which people have in business. I've called it love the product, hate the producer, because Facebook and Google, for example, have more than 2 billion customers, more than any businesses in history has imagined happening. And yet when we look at the papers every day, we see essentially abuse or criticism, at any rate, of the behavior of these kind of companies. We need to get that right. We need to reset the relations between people and business, and between business and the community. And that's a challenge which would really have challenged Smith, but also one which reflects his work and his thinking in the 18th century.